Mathology.ca was built to help teachers on their math teaching journey. So it does several things to help in that regard. It has some tools that help with long-range planning and short-term planning for teaching and preparing to teach lessons in your grade 1 math class, because currently Mathology.ca is only grade 1. Will be grade 2 shortly, and up the grades in the future. It has a feature to help you quickly assess where you see students are in their math journey as you're teaching a lesson. As you're assessing, we're keeping track of some information in the background about what curriculum links you're covering and what part of Pearson's learning progression, which is the developmental progression we've developed, they're sort of following or where they're at on that progression. And lastly, professional learning. So the lessons and the system is built to provide sort of in the moment professional learning resources so that you understand what the lesson's about and get some examples of how you might do it in your classroom. So Mathology is more than just Mathology.ca. And I'm not sure if anyone on the call has Mathology currently, but there's several pieces. There's an activity kit, which is the box here, which is a box of activity cards for students and teachers with activities from all of these strands across the curriculum. There's math little books. So there's a K-3 group of math little books that cover all the strands. They're physical as well as in Mathology.ca, as are the cards from the activity box. Mathology.ca, which we're going to show you today, which is sort of the digital component to these pieces, and the Pearson learning progression. So the developmental progression that we've developed comes in a physical copy. Comes with the box when you purchase it, and it's also built into Mathology.ca and is sort of an interactive component of the tool. And Mathology.ca is where all of these pieces sort of come together. So Mathology.ca really is built around 5 key sections. So it's aligned to Canadian curricula and our Pearson learning progression. It's pedagogically sound content with rich math activities and pedagogical supports. And then the 5 features that Mathology lays on top of that are the ability to search for content. And I'll show you as we go into the product, the different ways you can search. The ability to plan your lessons. Develop a scope and sequence of how you want to deliver things in class, add your own items to that plan, or use a plan we've created for you. Go through the lessons and the activities themselves and show you the support that's included for how to teach the lessons and what to teach in class. The assessment and tracking components of Mathology.ca, so the way you actually look at how your students are doing on an activity and how you're able to track that as you go through the lesson in Mathology. And lastly, the professional learning components that are built into the lessons that you're able to use to understand more deeply what the lesson's about, what the math focus is, as well as videos that give you an idea of how it might be used in a classroom. Okay, so we're going to jump in now and take a look at Mathology.ca. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to chat them, and Soyan will text them to me on my phone so I can respond either in the middle or at the end as we go through. And feel free to ask as many questions as you like. So I'm just going to shrink this for a second, and I'm going to pull up Mathology.ca. I've already logged in to Mathology.ca. When you log in and when you register as a Mathology.ca user, you have to register by telling us which province you're from, which grades you teach, and then the system will be set up with your provincial curriculum and also with the content that matches the grade or grades you're teaching. So if you're a split grade teacher, when Mathology has content all the way up the grades, then you'll be able to choose, I'm a grade 1-2 teacher, and the grade 1-2 content will be available for you. So in this search section, you have several ways of sort of finding what's available in terms of lessons, activities, and math little books in Mathology.ca. So there's a keyword ability, so you can just type like you were doing a Google search and press enter, and it will find all of the counting activities that are available. Again, currently we're only looking at grade 1, so you know. You can sort by grade, or whether you want little books or consolidation activities or just activities. You can also sort by strand. You can always go use this little button here to go back to the previous screen. That's a navigation feature anywhere you are in Mathology.ca. So I'm going to click that back button. You can also search by your provincial curriculum. So if you click this button, if you're in Ontario, which this teacher is set up as, you would see the strands and the overall, and then the specific expectations for your curriculum. And you can click on any of these green magnifying glasses to actually locate lessons or math little books that are available in Mathology.ca. So if you wanted to find something for reading in print and words, those would be the lessons and the math little books that are available to cover that part of the curriculum. If you're in British Columbia, excuse me, or another province, let me just show you this. So I've signed in to this screen as a British Columbia teacher. And when I click the search by curriculum function here, I get the British Columbia curriculum. So the curriculum's set up when you log in, so it's specific to where you're logging in from, to your province. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the back button again, and back to that. As you see, it takes you back one screen. Get back to the beginning, or I could have clicked home at the top. We can search by the learning progression. So Pearson developed a learning progression for Mathology. So instead of searching from a curriculum perspective, you can still search by strand, but from a learning progression or developmental progression view. So this sort of is the conceptual thread is applying principles of counting, and these are the indicators that go across as you go up the grades in the developmental plan. And again, you can search for in any one of these boxes on the sort of developmental continuum to find lessons as well, or math little books. Okay, I'm going to go back again using the back button and back to the start. Excuse me. So we've got an ability to type in a keyword like you would do in Google, an ability to find lessons in math little books by your curriculum outcomes or your curriculum expectations. You can find them by the learning progression, the developmental parts. And then the other way you can find and organize lessons and activities in Mathology.ca is through the plan function. So in the planning function, I'll just show you all the plans. There's a combination of things. So we have built long-term plans for teachers. There's 3 different options. So we've kind of built a complete scope and sequence that you can use as a place to start. So if you click any of those long-range plans, it will cover off all of the things you need to teach across the year and all of the pieces that are available in Mathology.ca. And you can just follow these. And as you see, math little books or activities on this side, you can choose to do those whenever you want, and you can use our scope and sequence as kind of your plan going forward. So you can also, as I said, there's 3 options that we provide, 3 different types of long range plans. There's a different one which is slightly different in terms of structure, or you can actually build your own plan. So you can search for lessons in Mathology.ca, and you can create a plan called Alicia, and you can find the activities that you want to put in your own plan, create your own folder structure. So you can have it as by strand, you can have it by weeks, you can have it by months, you can have it any way you'd like to set it up. And then you just find the items you want to add to your plan and you drag them in. And you can reorder that plan. You can add non-mathology lessons to that plan. So if you've got a lesson that you do already, like maybe you go out, one of the teachers we were talking to, when we actually built this feature for, talked about going out to the parking lot and counting cars. So she just wanted to be able to put that activity into Mathology. So counting cars, she put a complete description of what she does to teach that lesson. And if there's a link to a URL, that could be a a YouTube video, it could be a ministry document. If you're a Google or Outlook board, you could link it to a Google document or an Office 365 document. And when you can save those in your plan so that you can put not just the Mathology lessons, but links to videos and other resources in your plan as well. Okay, so I'm going to go home. I'm going to use the home button at the top to navigate back to the beginning. I'm just going to take a pause and see if there's any questions. So just give me 1 second here. Yeah, so Carly asked if it was possible for someone who's a math lead at a school to have access to multiple grades. At the moment, I think it's currently going to be built so it supports sequential grades, grades 1, 2, 2, 3. But by all means, Carly, we could just give you 2 different content packs so you could see all of the content that you need to see as a math lead. So I think Marge was asking about grade 4 resources. We actually don't have the grade 4 resources built yet, Marge. We are in the process of releasing grade 2 in Mathology.ca, and we're just starting to work on grade 3 and grade 4. So all we have available right now actually in Mathology.ca to show you is grade 1 material. Grade 2 will be out in September. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the plan at the top. I'm going to click plans again. So as I mentioned, we have the ability to create our own plans or to look at all the sample plans that we've created that we give you when you first get the product. And you can also share your plan. So if any of the plans that you create, if we go into Alicia's plan, and if there's another teacher in your school or in your district who you've been planning with or you think might benefit from having a copy of how you've organized things, you can just click up here and you can share your plan to any other teacher that's part of your district license or your school license. There's also some other features, a material list. So the material list basically just goes through all the things you've put in your own plan and gathers together for you what you're going to need to teach your whole plan. So all the line masters you'll need, which you can download right here, all the physical materials you'll need as well. And you can print this out so you know if you've created a plan for a week or a month, all the pieces you're going to need. And lastly, there's a curriculum check option. So if you want to go through your plan and see, what expectations or outcomes you have material for or lessons for, we actually sort of do that work for you. So you can see this particular outcome or expectation has 1 lesson attached to it so far. In your plan, in the plan you created. The sample plans we create cover the entire curriculum for grade 1. So I'm going to click the back button and I'm going to go home again. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you use Mathology sort of to teach. So as you can tell, we have 3 sort of different types of lessons. These lessons are those non-Mathology lessons that you create as a teacher to put into your plan. This is what a activity looks like. This is one of our activities. And this is what the math little books look like that are built into Mathology.ca. So I'm going to start just by searching all lessons. I'll see a list of everything that's available. And I'm just going to open Operational Fluency. And the lessons and the activities all have the same look and feel. So there's 4 tabs at the top: About, Details, Assessment, and Related Resources. And we'll go through each of them one by one. So we'll start with the About tab. The About tab just gives you information about what this lesson is. So a bit about what the lesson is, what the content background for this lesson might be, the math focus that this lesson is targeting. And then you'll see that this is marked as an ON teacher because I'm logged in as an Ontario teacher, and it will actually show you the specific expectations and strand from your provincial curriculum that this lesson covers. If there's cross-curricular connections, they'll be shown as well. It also shows you the processes or competencies, depending on which province that you're from. It will reflect your province's processes in here. And then at the bottom, you will see the links for this lesson to our Pearson learning progression, our developmental progression. And the way it works is the middle box is always the one that this lesson is tagged to, but you can see by just scrolling, what preceded this lesson. So developmentally, this is what this lesson is focusing on, but what came before that? So what were some of the developmental blocks that came before they get to this particular part, and what blocks are they going to get to when they move on from this part? This particular lesson has 2 concepts built into the lesson, so it has 2 different components for the learning progression. It actually covers off 2 different places. Okay, that's the About tab. The Details tab is where you see the activity cards. So as I mentioned at the beginning, there's a physical box of activity cards that you can purchase in Mathology. And in Mathology.ca, we have the digital version of those cards, and they're digital so they can be accessible and you can project them. And they also do something slightly different than the physical cards can. We link all the materials you'll need. So your line masters, some of your assessment masters, both in PDF and editable Word format that you can get right here when you decide to use this lesson. The lessons are built exactly like the cards, which I can show you in a second. There's an instruction section on how you're actually going to do this lesson, how to consolidate at the end, and what to look for as you begin to assess where you think the students are at. There's some probing questions, things you can ask the students to start discussion and hear their responses and understand better where their thinking is at. There's a learning highlights video, which is the video over here, which I'm going to come back to shortly. And then there's all of the images of those physical cards that come in the box. So if you don't have the activity box and you only own Mathology.ca, then you can pop up any of these cards and you can print them as many times as you like. And you can project them if it's something you want to project at the front of class to explain how the kids are going to do the activity. And we provide all of the cards that come with the box. So in the box, there's teacher's cards and student cards, and both have 2 sides. So this is a teacher card, which gives you the big ideas and the focus. On the back are the assessment boxes. So this is how the potential strategies and behaviors that you can see your students doing as you're teaching the activity or the lesson in class. And we're going to come back to this in a second. And then there's the student cards that come with Mathology's activity box that are also available at Mathology.ca. So these are cards that you use with blocks or counters or string or things like that in the lesson as you're delivering it. And lastly, we provide a picture of the student card with some of the other pieces that just gives you an idea of what it might look like when it's actually in use in your classroom. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there for a second because I think there's a bunch of questions here. So I'll go from last back. Do you have to purchase the physical kit to be able to access the kit cards? No, you can just purchase Mathology.ca and you'll have access to be able to print or project the cards. Give me a sec, I'll just go see if there's, is it possible to have a trial of the website and what is the cost? At the end of this, Marge, I will let you know if you go to etr.mathology.ca, you can register for a free trial all on your own. Just click the register button and you'll have to provide your first name and some information and you'll be immediately get access to a 45-day trial. And in terms of the subscription, I'm going to come to that at the end, but it is an annual subscription per teacher. And I will get to the pricing and information on that as we get towards the end, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, I think I've covered off most of the questions. So at the bottom of this page are also tools. So again, what we've tried to do is gather all of the pieces together that you would need to teach this lesson. So we're giving you questions and instructions and student cards and ideas of what those student cards look like, plus in any interactive tools that we think would be useful to help teach this particular lesson. And these are interactive tools you can use on a whiteboard. So, dragging blocks, building blocks. I'm not an expert at this part, so I'm not gonna go through this a lot, but there's a whole host of interactive tools that we provide, and we link them where they're appropriate to each activity. Okay. So that is the details page. So remember the about page, that was about sort of the curriculum connections, the math focus, the learning progression. The details page is that digital version of the activity cards with all of the additional links to the line masters and the interactives and the projectables. I'm going to skip over assessment for now and go to related resources. Related resources are all the other sort of teaching material that's available for this lesson. So there are things called mini lessons, which are additional lessons you can use in class to support either students who are on grade, students who need some intervention, or students who need some are actually already getting what they're doing and need some extension. And I'll show you where these are linked in a second that tries to help you guys, point you guys to the right one to use for the right students. There is a link to possible misconceptions. So students thinks that adding two numbers in a different order result in two different sums. So it's sort of a statement of what possible misconceptions you can see, and then something you might want to do to help solve that misconception or sort out that misconception. There's things you can do in class, extra things you can do in class, extra things you can do at home, which you can print out. A word wall, so a vocabulary wall for the math terms that were part of this lesson. And then lastly, if you've done this lesson, we give you the details on the other lessons that relate to this one. So in this case, operational fluency, there's other operational fluencies you might want to do next, or you might want to look at in terms of differentiating for different kids. And they're marked as on grade, below grade, or above grade. And we won't see many aboves or belows because we don't have the grade K or 2 content loaded yet. But once we do, even people that just buy grade 1 will get access to some of the grade 2 K and some of the grade 2 related lessons. As well, in here are any of the math little books that relate to this particular operational fluency. So in this case, that's 10 is the math little book that goes along with that's related to this activity. Okay, I'm just going to whip into a math little book just to show you what they look like. So what we've been looking at now is lessons. Now we're going to look at a math little book. Same basic structure. You have the about page, the details page, and the related resources. Same idea. About is all of the stuff, the learning progression and your curriculum. The details is information specifically about the little book with the link to the digital student little book that it comes with Mathology.ca. So that's there as well. I'm not going to play it, but it has audio support all the way through as well. And then related resources are just those extra teaching materials that go along with the math little book. So this is the line masters for the math little books. And these are the related math little books and lessons that sort of go along with the theme of the lesson you are teaching. Okay. So I'm just going to go back using the back button again. Actually, I'm going to go home because I think I'm in a different place here. I'm going to go back to my operational fluency lesson. And I'm going to show you the little videos. So these are these learning highlight videos that I was talking about from the details section. They come from clicking this button, or you can click them in your professional learning drawer. And this professional learning drawer is going to change over time. We're going to continue to add videos, documents, links to websites that support these activities. But at the moment, each activity has at least one supporting video. I'll give you a quick idea of what that looks like. Okay, I'm just going to leave it there because I don't want to get a few more things to show you. So that's the professional learning drawer and specifically the learning highlight video. As I said, over time, as you use Mathology, we will continue to add new professional learning components to that drawer that will just show up for you automatically. And as I said, they could be PDF documents, links to ministry websites, links to board content, other things like that. The last part I wanted to show you is assessment and tracking. So in every one of these lessons, you have the 4 tabs. There's also an assessment component. So if you remember the back of the physical card that I showed you before, we've basically mimicked that in the digital tool. So what you're doing in the assessment section is you're just saying, okay, here are the behaviors and strategies I might see in my class as I'm doing this lesson. And you simply just grab your students who you've added into your class earlier, and you put them in the box you think they belong. And as you're doing that, we're tracking the curriculum outcome or expectation that this particular lesson covered. We actually know which one of these boxes, where it fits on the Pearson learning progression. So developmentally, we know the left box is a little bit sort of on the beginning to develop stage, and the right box is on the sort of fully developed stage. These are live, so you can go back 2 weeks later if you're teaching if you're redoing a lesson or going back to something you taught before, and if Susan seems to have jumped ahead of where she was last time, you can just move her to the next section. You can make notes for each student about what you saw or what you want to do next. I'm just going to put something simple here for now. And then the cool feature for me is, now that you kind of have, you sort of have seen where your students are at, we provide those next steps. So here's something you can do in the moment for Jerry to sort of move him up a bit this is kind of the support that Jerry needs for the box that he's in. And for other boxes, you will also be linked directly to those mini lessons or additional supports. So it could be a mini lesson, this case an intervention, or it could be an actual another lesson in the system at grade, below grade, or above grade that you get linked to. And they're different for each box. So each box specifically supports the students that are in that area. Okay. And some cards have 2 concepts. That's why you'll see sometimes there's 2 boxes, because it supports 2 different concepts. Okay, so it's an easy drag drop, but it's a powerful thing because as you're using it, we're actually tracking, as I said, what's going on. So I can go into Miranda's class and now I see all of the assessments I've done for all of the activities. We're in the activity view at the moment. So these are all the activities for which I've assessed, and I can see the distribution, like where they are in the boxes. So more kids further to the top left would be sort of red. More kids to the bottom right would be green. And if the kids are distributed mostly in the middle, it's going to show up as orange. It just gives you an idea of sort of where your class is at from how as you've been assessing them. So you can see it as an activity view. You can also look at it from a curriculum point of view. So you can see all of just the things you've assessed. So you can look at the curriculum outcomes or expectations that you've actually done assessments for, and sort of where those lessons were connected to. And then you can see specifically underneath which lessons belonged with that particular expectation or outcome. And then lastly, you can do what we call the advanced view, which is when you're looking at this curriculum view, you're only seeing it tied to the overall expectation or overall outcome or general outcome. In the advanced view, you get 2 more options. You can actually see a more detailed view of the curriculum down to the specific expectation or specific outcome if you want more detail. Or you can actually look at that progression view. So the learning progression, the developmental view instead of the curriculum view, to see where your students are at. Okay, so this is where Miranda's class is at. And then I can switch over and I can actually look at specific students. So I'll look at Lisa P. And I have the same options, the activity view, the curriculum view, or the advanced view to see the detailed curriculum or the learning progression. And I also have now a list of just the activities where I've dropped Lisa into one of those boxes, and basically some status about where she is on each of these lessons. If I click details or any of this, I see specifically the box that I had dropped Lisa into when I was doing the assessment. And if I made any comments during that assessment, I will see them show up here. And I can export this information to PDF, or I can export it to a Word document if I want to edit it or add some, some bells and whistles to it before I give it to Lisa's parents, or just put it in a binder. Okay. So coming right back to the home page, the only other thing that's available is, you'll notice that there's things that are pinned to your front screen. So you have 3 options of things you can pin directly here, so that when you log in, they're immediately available to you. Those are also show up in your favorites. So when we are back, I'm going to go back home. When you're in a lesson, you can choose to favorite by clicking the heart, and anything you favorite shows up in your favorite section. And there's also a section for what you pinned. So if I've decided I'm done with On Safari and I'm doing hockey time next week, I can unpin one, pin the other, and then when I navigate back to my home button, I now have hockey time available for me. So when I go in the next time, that will be a quick link and connection to what I need to do in class. And again, any of the videos or links to documents you've created as your own Mathology lesson, you can also pin to this page too. So I'm going to stop now, because I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you guys and we're running out of time. So I'm just going to go back into Soyen's messages here and see if there's any information or any more questions. Video doesn't have sound. Sorry, if the video didn't have sound for you guys, it definitely has sound. It was playing for me. I'm sorry you guys couldn't hear it. It was probably because I have a headset on, so the sound was not coming back through my microphone. But if you guys want to sign up for a free trial, you can definitely play around. So before I move on to sort of some of the other things, does anybody have any other questions? To Carly's question, just to clarify, is grade 1 only available in Mathology.ca? Grade 1 English is currently available in Mathology.ca. Grade 2 English is coming in September 2019. There's also a French version of Mathology called Mathology, which I can show you on the screen. The French version of grade 1 will be available in September 2019. Grade 2 probably September 2020. And then grade 3, 4 will be the next release, and that should come probably in September 2020 as well. Anybody else have any other questions before I move on to wrapping up? Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint here, and we'll just wrap up with a few more slides and then any final questions you guys have. So this is just a review of what you get in Mathology, digitally, lesson kit, activity kit, Mathology little books. So for grade 1, this is currently what's available. The box contains 101 lessons. There's 34 K1 math little books. There's the full K3 learning progression, and there's those 100+ professional learning videos. This is all of the content that comes in Mathology.ca. So you can buy them separately in physical components as well, obviously not the videos, but this is sort of all the content that you get from these pieces that is embedded in Mathology.ca for grade 1, and in grade 2 there's even more. This is the pricing for Mathology. It's a 1-year subscription per teacher at $140, or a 5-year subscription with a discount for $665. And there's bundle pricing. So if you purchase additional components of Mathology, like the little book kits or the activity kits, there's an additional discount. Lastly, if you need any more information on ordering or any other questions you have about SuccessMaker, these are the account executives for your areas, for your provinces. So feel free at the moment to jot down the name and the email address if you need to ask more questions. For general questions, you can always just send an email to help@mathology.ca. We'll be happy to take care of any questions you have. And that's pretty much where I think I'm going to stop and just see if there was any final questions before we wrap up for tonight. And again, appreciate your time very much. So anybody have any final questions before we wrap up? And just to let you know, there are other webinars that they're in this series that are coming up. So there are other dates available if you wanted to attend, or if you had somebody else who wanted to attend another one of our webinars. There are more dates in May and a few in June that we could send you if you're interested. Again, just email us at help@mathology.ca. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. So if everybody's got all their questions out, again, thank you so much for taking your time to come to this today. And we will have, again, if you're interested in signing up for a Mathology.ca trial, go to Mathology.ca, etr.mathology.ca, click the register button, and you'll be immediately granted access to a 45-day trial. So Ian pointed out one last thing, which I will quickly show you if you guys are still there, is when you actually log in, you can actually, if you're a Google board or a Microsoft board, you can use your Google account or your Microsoft account as well to sign in. And you'll still have to register, but if you're already logged into Gmail or Outlook, then when you come to Mathology.ca, it'll be a single click and you won't have to log in again. Just take you right into Mathology. Okay, well, again, thanks for your time. And please drop us any notes or questions, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Okay, good night, everyone.